Hi, Aries Sun and Rising. Welcome to your October 2025 Astro Update. It's Raina here. And so, as the month begins in October, the Sun and Mercury are in your opposite sign of Libra. This means that they are inhabiting the seventh house of relationships, and that's one on one relationships. And we typically call this the marriage house. Marriage can mean legal marriage or the equivalent of that, but it can be business partnerships, anything along those lines. Plus, the seventh house can also be legal matters. And so this could be taking up center stage for you at this time, where you are embodying these characteristics for one reason or another. And the other thing that the month begins with is Mars being in Scorpio. Mars is your ruler, so that holds extra significance for Aries people. Well, Mars will be in Scorpio all month long, so this is going to be your eighth house. So, because I just mentioned the seventh house being about legal affairs, and Mercury is there, and Mercury can be even documents, so it could be like legal documents. Mars being in the eighth house could be some sort of conflict or other type of situation that might be making you angry, might be making you like be on the war path. The eighth house can be other people's money or shared resources. So there could be fighting over shared resources. An example would be an inheritance and whatever is going on with that, or if you are getting divorced and you're splitting up you know, the things from the marriage, the money and the possessions. That could be something that, Mars, it isn't always about conflict, but it could be about additional energy poured into something all of a sudden. So that's what's happening with that. But it's also a house of transformation. So this could be like a spiritual thing that's going on that has nothing to do with money or relationships, but or except for the relationship you have with yourself, I guess you could say. On the 6th, Mercury goes into that eighth house in Scorpio. And one thing about Aries is that you hold the template of the universal chart. Now, if you're listening to this forecast for your sun sign, understand that your rising sign is going to determine your natal chart, and that is very important for predictive astrology. So definitely um, explore that, because that will most likely be a different sign than your sun sign, and therefore everything changes, and your transits will be changed too. And the natal transits are more important for everyday occurrences. The solar chart, that can be good for like your goals, your career, that sort of thing. But for just the overall picture, the natal chart is very important. So anyway, um, in the eighth house, Mercury can be contracts or communication concerning shared resources. And there's also, with Scorpio and the eighth house, this probing, this very like the mind of a detective. There's also like an intuitive quality. I think good detectives probably have very strong intuitive gifts, that it's not just about their intellect or anything like that, that it is about their intuition to kind of focus on one thing versus another. And that could ferret out secrets that are occurring about money that you share with other people, or if you are married, for instance, this could be your spouse's money. Maybe they're lying about their money and you find that out at some point. But it's even, like I said before, this could be your personal transformation. You have Mars here, and you could be like studying esoteric subjects. On the same day, this is the 6th again, we have a full moon in your sign. So, wow, that seems pretty symbolic, because a full moon in your sign means like your own personal revelations about yourself, about your life, maybe endings, um, or letting go of something that is holding you back. So maybe those two things are related for sure. On the 13th, Venus goes into Libra, into the sign that it rules, into your opposite sign. Well, that's nice, that Venus is going into the 7th house, because that can give a lot more harmony to partnerships. It can give a lot more fortunate circumstances to legal matters. This can even be money from legal matters, money through partnerships. Maybe some people are, proposing or accepting a proposal of marriage. On the same day, Pluto goes direct at 1 degree of Aquarius. So this is your 11th house. Pluto direct in the 11th. The 11th house is the house of gains. Pluto can be connected to money. But the person has to be, I think, balanced about this, because Pluto can sometimes bring obsessive tendencies. So, like I have said about Pluto transiting the 10th house, when it's career and it could be about success, in the 11th house, it can be about the money from the career, the money from the business. And the thing is that sometimes people attach some sort of proof of success through money, or just, because they're materialistic or what have you, they tend to get like really attached, hung up by the material aspect, and they decide whether or not they're successful according to it, or whether or not they want to continue doing it because of it. And, when you're doing things for the right reasons, there's not going to be that inner conflict. There's not going to be that sense of obsession. It's going to be something that a person is doing regardless of the outer, demonstration of it. And they're not going to attach importance to things such as popularity and whether or not it's lucrative, because they know that it's something that is advancing humanity. The 11th house is humanity. And when Pluto is in the 11th house, there is kind of a reformer type of energy attached to it. So it's all, if somebody has this natally, they may feel a calling to politics. But the thing about politics is that it's kind of a two-edged sword in the sense that while a person may initially go into it because they do have a strong desire to reform society and reform it in a way that is positive, I mean to say, but either they become corrupt somewhere along the lines, or they're, kind of like an ego thing where they feel like they're all powerful. What's that saying? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well, you don't even need absolute power to get corrupted, because the ego, it's so easy for it to get tempted by that or flattered. But, so what could start as a very wholesome intention can turn into something else. So it all depends on, the intention that is sustained, not, distorted over time. And so maybe you have also been thinking in terms of the people that surround you, and this is the house of your friends and acquaintances that you know through groups that you belong to as well. And wanting to change, like even somebody who is an activist, and I could see a lot of Aries people being drawn to that because of that warrior energy. Well, if you say that you want to change society, the question becomes, are you changing yourself? So Pluto retrograde might have been a time when, for some reason, whether it was something that happened that forced you to look within or what, where it's like the ideals didn't match the personal behavior, and so you had to kind of correct yourself a little bit. Because once you change yourself, the outer world can't help but change. On the 21st, we have a new moon at 28 degrees of Libra in that relationship house. So yeah, things are shifting with relationships. Even if you have a relatively good relationship, you may find that because you had eclipses in your own sign and as well as Libra. So you've been having this storyline of, I wouldn't just say challenges to your relationship, but changes kind of coming in. And that may have changed the dynamics somewhat of a relatively good relationship. Maybe in some cases, a relationship that was a marriage or the equivalent became a friendship. So it wasn't that you totally cut that person out of your life, but you changed the way the two of you relate and the status of your relationship. I mean, there's so many possibilities. So this new moon, it's almost to me like a culmination of all of those triggers of the last couple of years, because it's at 28 degrees of Libra. So, but it does carry the energy of a new moon too. So in a way, that's kind of a good combination, because it might be more of a quick manifestation of relationship issues. The very next day, on the 22nd, Neptune goes back into Pisces and the sun goes into Scorpio. So you have Neptune going back into the 12th house and the sun going into the 8th house. Well, both of these are water houses. And so, and specifically with the 8th and the 12th houses, they're both spiritual houses. So you did have Neptune and Saturn briefly go into your sign. And that certainly can be good for a spiritual transformation when you have Neptune in your own sign. But it is a little bit tricky for Aries in particular, because you are the ruler of the first house of the self. And having Neptune in the first house, it can soften the Aries, I don't know, behavior, persona, whatever you want to call it. But it can also throw a monkey wrench in what you stand for, which is like the self, the individual, the identity. Neptune isn't about the self. Neptune is selfless, so it can give you a new perspective, I suppose you could say, and it can humble you, so that softens you, but it can also confuse you, and it can make you feel like for the first time in your life you feel aimless. Well, now you have Neptune going back into the 12th house where it rules and where you might be able to go within more, so that because it's like, I think about that song that George Harrison, who is a Pisces, wrote called Within You, Without You. The 12th house is within you and the first house is without you. And they're both valid. We do have these physical lives. We do have these physical bodies, and the first house represents these physical bodies. But we have a soul. The 12th house represents the soul. Both are valid and at the same time. So that is kind of happening for you. And the sun going into the 8th house, this is that intense, deep, transformative, that urging you to go deeper, to transform yourself. On the 29th, Mercury goes into Sagittarius, into the 9th house. Some of you may feel the desire, or you may be making plans to travel. And by travel, I mean far away, not like locally. And Mercury can be your paperwork, can be your documents that you need for that. This is also the house of the higher mind, and on a more mundane level, that would be the university. So some of you may be trying to enroll in a university, trying to get your transcripts, things like that, talking to university for some reason. Maybe you're applying to a university to attend school or to teach there. Okay, Aries, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, I'm promoting my double readings. The deep dive reading, which is a double astrological reading, really goes together because it's an hour of natal chart analysis. If you've never had your chart analyzed, it helps you to see different facets of yourself. There are 12 houses. There are 12 areas of life that the natal chart addresses. And you can have, planets in any of those houses. Sometimes they're all not all, but I mean, there are multiple planets concentrated in one house. And that can emphasize a certain area of life. It can get very interesting because a lot of people might, most people probably know their sun sign. Some people know their moon and ascendant, but there's even more than that, way more than that. And then the other reading is transits, astrological transits for the next 12 months, whenever those 12 months are when you're ordering. It's for those 12 months. And it's just really interesting to see the themes of the coming year or 12-month period, because we live in a time that in the outer world, there seems to be so much chaos and so much shifting. But there's also, on a personal level, our own journeys, our personal journeys. And that can be kind of almost contradictory to the outer world. We might have a time where it's an economic boom, and personally, you're feeling called to not work and to go live in an ashram somewhere. I mean, people don't necessarily follow the trends. And so that's what I actually like to think of them as astrological trends, because we can never know how something is going to shake out totally. It's all about the influences and our free will ability to choose what we allow and the timeline we choose to go on, because we're, every choice is a new timeline. And no one can say for sure what you're going to do, even if it seems like logical for you to do something. So that's called my deep dive reading, and these readings are at a special price compared to buying them separately. So that's why they're a package deal. And if you like the tarot as well, I have all three full-length readings for a special price called the whole enchilada. I have another combo deal, and I also do like love readings, career readings. You can find out more information at the link below. Thanks for listening. Bye.